What's up, guys? So let's round out my Evil Dead trilogy with Army of Darkness, which is the last film in the Evil Dead original trilogy of films that Sam Raimi did, not including the remake that came later. Um, Now, going into Army of Darkness, from what I remembered, is that it was very different and very unique to the first two, because the first one is a unique horror movie, but then the second one is basically a repeat parody type, but it's incredible though. But I love that this one in particular, Army of Darkness, is such a different, even though it has so many elements that are in the Evil Dead universe, like they do so many things that are connected to it, but it feels so different than the first two movies, and I think that this stands up incredibly well in its own merits. Like if you watch this on its own, like it explains the first two movies immediately. Um, so I really think that this one, even if you watch it on your own, it still stands up as a movie you can just watch on your own and enjoy. Like you don't have to watch the other two because it gives the information at the beginning of the movie about what happened in the first two movies. And it also redid footage again. Like, funny enough, Evil Dead 2, how they did new footage from part 1 that didn't exist, like, because they couldn't get the footage for part 1, they did new footage for that in Evil Dead 2. But then in Army of Darkness as well, they did new footage with Ash and Linda again. And I think it's a different actress playing Linda, or maybe it's the same actress, but she's got short hair now. But it was really funny that, like, they do that again. It felt like a certain gag throughout the all three of these movies, and that continuity just doesn't add up. And I think they purposefully did that after they couldn't do it in the second one, where they couldn't get the footage from the first one. They just kept going with it, like it became a recurring running gag. And I think that's very clever too, that they kind of erase continuity in a way. Even though this one's closer in continuity to connecting to Evil 2 to Army of Darkness as opposed to the first Evil Dead to Evil Dead 2. But it's still missing all those characters from Evil Dead 2. Like the Annie character, she's just not shown at all. So it does the same thing again, like the first one to the second one, and then this one to the second one to Army of Darkness, where they just don't talk about any of the other characters besides Ash and Linda. Linda's the only other important character, I guess, because none of the other characters in Evil Dead 2 are mentioned. But again, it's interesting how they do that again with the footage angle, where like it's new footage. Um, Now, starting out, this movie is set exact opposite of what the first two Evil Dead movies are. It is set in the Dark Ages, in the medieval times, and the end of Evil Dead 2 showed that this is what's going to be the next movie. But the thing I love going into Army of Darkness is that when the movie starts, it's very light and sunny, and the other two movies were not like that at all. Like like 1 and 2 did have moments of like the morning or the evening, but in this one, for the first half of the movie, or like the first 30 minutes at least, like it was literally just they were out in the sun. They were out in something that was the opposite of just nighttime, basically, because for the most part, the first two movies were just in darkness, just in the nighttime. And in this one, I like the fact that they did it in the daytime for the first half of the movie, basically. That's a really cool distinction, and that makes it stand on its own, and just a cool visual difference. Um, and I really liked it a lot. And I like how it starts out where Ash is a prisoner. He's been taken prisoner from after landing there, and then he gets thrown into this pit where we get this awesome fight between all these kind of possessed people who are just down in the pit, and he's got these spikes that are on each wall, and he has to get out. And I love how, since he's such a badass character, he just gets his belt, whips it up, the belt hooks onto this chain that goes up, so he goes up to the chain while this creature that's fighting him gets squished between both of the walls of spikes. But I love that scene. That's a great opening to making this more of an action movie than the other two. Like I love the fact that this is an action horror comedy. Like it does the next level, where the first one was a straight up horror movie with a few horror elements. The second one was a horror comedy. This one is an action horror comedy. Like it's cool how they keep adding in genres to each one of these films, and that makes them so unique in their own selves, like all three of these movies. So that scene where he after the pit is great, and I love the fact that after this, there's a scene where Ash is in like this little building, and he has this broken mirror, and like he drops the mirror shard on the ground, and you see in the mirror shards there's a lot of different ashes, just mini ashes, and then they come out of the mirror shards and start attacking him, and it's so incredibly funny because it's got all these little ash miniatures that are running around, either poking him with a fork in the butt or like trying or like making him swallow one of them. Like, it's really funny and really entertaining, and again, the humor works great like it did in the second one, and because of Bruce Campbell and his awesome charisma, like that really sells it. But just that scene is awesome, of the little ashes just torturing him and fighting him, and I really love the integration with the little creatures to full-sized Ash. Like, that's really good. And for 1992, the effects are actually really solid and effective, and it really felt like it was believable whenever like you saw them small. Even though, of course, there have been movies before this that did that, but this really worked in this one with that scene. But then it doesn't stop there. Ash gets a conjoined twin that pops out, and he has to fight, and it becomes literal slapstick, like you're watching Looney Tunes. But I love that. I love the humor in this movie. Again, like I said with the second one, it works very well, but this one is, I want to argue and say it's kind of a different type of humor. Like, it's got, like, it feels like a literal cartoon in this, and the second one had humorous moment, or it was a very humorous movie, like it was a horror comedy, but I felt like the humor in that was a little more subdued. This one was really over the top, and in a way where I loved and appreciated. Like, I really loved how they went another extra step in terms of the humor as well. So I really loved how it was basically Looney Tunes slapstick with him and his conjoined twin that pops out of him. That's really fun. And I also want to mention Embeth Davidtz as Sheila, his girlfriend of the movie, the one who gets taken away by the end of the movie by one of the Deadites. Like, that's, like, I like the fact that they do that trope of this, like, girlfriend in peril thing, but I like how it, in the end of the movie, you realize, oh, she's possessed, so, like, he has to fight her off, so it's not like she gets taken away and then he's got to go save her, even though he kind of does save her because he defeats the Deadites at the end, but I really like that trope being different. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, his girlfriend's gone, he's got to go get her. Like, instead he has to fight her because she's become possessed. I think that's good. And before she becomes possessed, I really like, even though it's not the most important factor in the movie, but I like the scenes between Bruce Campbell and Embeth Davidtz, and they both, like, these characters, like, it's so funny tonally seeing the two differences between characters. Like, Ash is this literal cartoon character in this movie, and the character of Sheila is the serious character who knows he's the one to save us all. She wants to have him save everybody, save the world. But I like the fact that she acts really serious and talks really serious to him, and then he reacts in a really comedic way. Like, the tonal mix is really great between the two of them, and their chemistry is cool. Because she doesn't really fully understand what he's saying whenever he says stuff like, give me some sugar, baby. Like, she doesn't understand that. Even though she kisses him right after, but she doesn't understand that quote. Like, she's never heard that before. But I really like their relationship, even though it wasn't, like, fully explored, but it wasn't supposed to. It's not supposed to be like that in this movie. Now, that ending battle, I want to say the ending of this movie is really badass. Again, it's really awesome action. It's literally all these the good guys versus the Deadites, and it's so cool in how big they stage this, like, this area they're in where they've got, like, a gated area where, like, the Deadites eventually get in to try to get the Necronomicon. But it really works in just how fun and how action heavy it is. Them fighting skeletons, like, that's really fun. The humans fighting skeletons. And I really like how Ash tricks out his car to where it's got a propeller blade that chops up many of the Deadites. Just, just chops him up into pieces. That was really cool. And I liked how they brought back the car, because at the end of Evil Dead 2 and at the beginning of this, you see the car comes down with him as well. So he uses it to his advantage. That's really cool. And so I really enjoyed that a lot. So I thought that the ending of the movie in terms of action was really, really awesome and really entertaining and fun. And it was just humorous as well. Like, it was very fun. And I really liked the ending. I liked how, like, obviously you were going to think that he'd go back to his time, and he does. But I really enjoyed that. I really love that goodbye between him and Sheila. Like, I think that's good. Whenever she turns back to normal after they're defeated, the Deadites are defeated, there's a goodbye between them both, and I thought it was really effective. Like, it actually worked for me. Like, I liked how these characters didn't get much dialogue, but just immediately I did feel for them and like them together, and then by the end, whenever he had to leave, like, I thought that was pretty sad. And then we get that great final scene, which is really funny, where he's at the grocery store he works at, and he's talking to another guy who's Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother, and he says to him that that he came back and he said the words, and then the other guys, Ted Raimi is like, well, did you say the words right? And he says, well, I don't know if I said every single syllable right, but I think I said it just right enough. And then you see camera view come up of, like, the demon flying at them in the store, and then it possesses a girl where he has to fight this woman and shoot her like hundreds of times to just get her to finally die because she's possessed. And I love that moment of where, like, it's so exploitive, but it's so fun because this girl that he just meets immediately, who he thinks is hot, like, after he kills that possessed woman, like, she and him embrace, and then he just looks at her. And I love that monologue where, like, he says, or not monologue, but that the words that he's the dialogue that's talking over this scene, where, like, he's saying that even though he didn't decide to be king there in medieval times, he still is kind of his own king. And then he says to the girl, "Hail to the king, baby," and then he kisses her, which "Hail to the king, baby" is one of the coolest one-liners ever. I think that's an awesome one-liner. It always sticks with me. And it's because of Bruce Campbell saying it that it's really good. But I really did love that ending, and I loved everything about this one. I think in terms of ranking these three movies, I don't know how I'm going to do that, because all three of these movies for me are pretty much equal, because I feel like the first one is a really fantastic horror movie with a few great funny elements to it, and then the second one is a fantastic horror comedy that parodies the original but stands up on its own. And this one really stands up as being a different, unique action horror comedy. And because of the action, because of the fun, because of the comedy, because of Bruce Campbell, this, I feel like, is just as great as the first two. I really think this is an incredible movie again. And I love how this is a trilogy where I love all three of them equally. I don't feel like any of them I dislike or don't feel much differently about. I feel like these three are very equal. So, damn, it feels really good rewatching Army of Darkness. I'm so glad I got a chance to rewatch it, and just an excuse to rewatch for this review on my channel. So yeah, really loved this on rewatch. And next, I will review the Evil Dead remake. I do want to talk about that one, and I really want to rewatch it because I've only seen it once. So that's all I can say about Army of Darkness. Tell me down below what you guys think of Army of Darkness, and thank you so much for watching.